Wow, that music was flawless.
We did it!
Yes.
Oh, sorry. I forgot to unclick the loop. I'm so sorry.
Oh, we were so close.
In the bag.
Oh no. Well, hello anyway, and welcome to Love in the Time of Hydra, the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. 10th anniversary podcast. On this day, 10 years ago, Tuesday, October 15th, a lot was happening in the world. The top movie at the box office that day was Jackass Presents Bad Grandpa. Royals by Lorde was still the #1 song. Charlie Hunnam dropped out of playing Christian Grey in 50 Shades of Grey, and the government was on its 15th day of being shut down. But the most important thing that happened on this day 10 years ago was Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s 4th episode, I Spy, on ABC 8/7 Central. Hello, I'm Jamie Jarek, and I'm here with my co-host, boyfriend, and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. novice, Tony Paletto. Hi, Tony.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Welcome back to the show.
And I'm so excited for our guest today. Our third guest ever, host of Slayer Fest 98 and My Bloody Jewy, Ian Carlos Crawford is here.
Hi.
Hello,
Ian, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being
Joy.
here on what is the busiest week of your podcast. I think I appreciate you so much. You're taking a break from talking Buffy, and you're here.
Listen, I think I've said this before, but I get excited when I'm invited on, not that, of course I love Buffy because duh, but like I'm excited when I'm invited on a podcast where it isn't to talk horror or Buffy. I'm like, ooh, something else? That's nice.
That's exactly how I feel when I don't talk about Marvel. But whenever I get to come on your podcast. So amazing. So, we like to kick off the show by talking about what we were doing 10 years ago today. Nothing in my time hop showed up. So I don't know exactly what I was doing on this date, but I know we're entering like the weeks of when I got my first full-time job after graduating college, working at Grubhub, working in a call center, the real juice of it. Ian, do you know what you were doing on this date 10 years ago?
I want you to know, I just brought up, that's what I was bringing up, my time hop. I'm like,
yes.
what is it I was doing? Like, I was at Comic-Con.
Yes, New York Comic-Con.
Mm-hmm.
Which actually, I was going to bring this up later, but I'll bring it up now. 10 years ago, this weekend, they screened this episode. They screened it at New York Comic-Con. Yeah, so I'm guessing you didn't go to that panel.
No, I didn't go to that panel.
Yeah, that's fair. I'll respect it.
I like... And you do Comic-Con as well, right, Jamie? Like you go for, like as press. Yeah. Sometimes it's like, I don't want to do the panels, not because I'm not interested, but it's just like such a chore to like wait in line, make sure you can get in and make sure like, and then like, if I'm writing about it, like taking down notes and then having someone yelling at me for having something out. And I'm like, so I like, unless it's like something I have to go to, I don't usually do a panel, even if it's like, I remember, not that we would want to go to a panel with him now, but back in the day, Joss Whedon did a panel and I didn't even go to that. And that was like, like, oh, I'd like to, but I'm not going to bother. That's too much work. So not that now I would go, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally know. I totally get it. I was actually going to ask if you've been, so like you're checking off questions right at the top. I love it. Tony, what are you going to say you were doing 10 years ago?
That's a weird way to phrase it. Let's see. So this was like 1 week after I was doing basket weaving in Brazil, but I guess so it was, I was competing in a badminton tournament in Texas, and we came in third place, my team and I.
I love this. I just learned so much about you, Tony, in that.
You learned that Tony's a liar, is what you've learned about Tony.
You asked me what I was doing, and I gave you my answer.
You're right.
It did look a little pointed. You took a drink as you asked him, and I was like, ooh, is this like a...
Yeah, this is me being salty at Tony at the top of every episode. But I'm excited. Yeah, you really are. It's so true. I do want to thank everyone who's been listening to our first 3 episodes, who's been engaging with us on social media. We took a poll to this week on Instagram to see if people thought the S.H.I.E.L.D. Truth Serum was real. And I got to say the results, 50-50. And I want to shout out our listener, Tegan, who convinced me in the Lido DMs that it's not real. And I'm not going to get into her reasoning, but she convinced me it's not real. And I want to say hello to everybody in the chat today.
Hello, everybody in the chat. Friendly reminder to everyone in the chat, for my sake and anyone else who is listening or watching this show for the first time, tag your spoilers. That just means writing spoiler alert before discussing anything that happens on the show after episode 4. Our producer, Maria Spertolozzi, she's in the chat monitoring and chatting along. Hi, Maria.
Hello, guys.
Hi, Maria.
Yeah, that's our disembodied producer, Maria. We love her to death.
Yes.
The disembodied
Yeah.
voice.
She's so good at everything except hitting play on music. That's her one flaw.
I think by season 3, we're going to be crushing it, though.
Yeah, it's my new favorite bit. I love it. I do want to bring up, before we dive into Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I do want to talk, Ian, about how Slayers is out and how, you have a Buffy podcast. If people don't know, it's Slayerfest 98. It's my favorite podcast to guest on because, as I've mentioned many times in this podcast, Buffy is my favorite show of all time. And I consider Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. its little cousin. So, Ian, if you want to just tell us a little bit about your new coverage of new Buffy content.
I'm like, Slayers, it is so exciting to have like new Buffy content that like includes the actors. Like, I don't know how you, Jamie, I don't think I would have thought they could pull this off, right? Like, I would be like, oh, well, that wouldn't happen either. They couldn't get all the same actors, but like, they fucking did. And like, that is wild.
Yeah, they did.
And it has been like, and I know you feel this too, Jamie, right? It's just been so exciting having something new with them. And it's like, it reminds me of the excitement of watching the show when it was on. And everyone seems to be like, I will say, when I first posted about it, I had a few people that were like, well, it doesn't have Sarah Michelle Gellar, so I don't want it. And I'm like, well, but like, I don't think we're ever going to get something with her. So like, hands up, whatever, I understand she doesn't want to do it. So, but only like a few people. And ever since then, it's been really positive. And so we've covered the first 2 episodes already, and everyone's seems to be very into it. Like, I've had a few people be like, oh, is there spoilers for the episode after? And I'm like, no, I'm actually listening as we record. So that way I'm only talking about it in context of what, episodes 1 and 2 on episode 2. And then I can be like, yes. And I think that's like a fun way to go through it. It is.
Yours won't last 7 years, but that's still cool.
Right.
Oh, I love it. Yeah. And to me, I think it helps that it's like kind of an alternate universe that I think lowers the stakes. They're not going to ruin anything. It's its own world. Unlike the new Frasier, which is really stressing me out because they're ignoring Cheers, and I don't like that. Oof. All right. So now we know a little bit about Buffy, but now we got to switch gears and talk about your history with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Because I'm curious. I watched the first episode of S.H.I.E.L.D. the day it aired because it was directed by Joss Whedon, not because it was Marvel. Did you get into it that way, or did you come in as a Marvel fan?
Both, because up until recently, but I think I still kind of am. I was very much like a Marvel completionist. Like, I had to see everything. I had to like, okay, this is coming out. I really like Coulson. For me, that was like, I liked Coulson. Joss was doing it kind of. And I like superhero stuff. So this is very nerdy of me, but as a kid, I always wanted regular generic S.H.I.E.L.D. agent figures because I felt like I needed Nick Fury to have like characters that are like with him because he had S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. So
totally,
all of my Star Trek Next Generation characters that had the blue uniform were my S.H.I.E.L.D. agents when I played with my toys.
That's fantastic. That's actually really cool. I was a big action figure kid myself. I had a massive assortment, and I am kind of shook by that move you made. That's really great. Yeah.
I would always look. Tony... Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, please, Ian. Go ahead.
I was just saying I don't like. So I'm still an action figure adult, clearly. And I feel like, Jamie, there's probably a direct line from me doing stuff like that as a kid to like the custom figures I photographed for the Slayerfest images.
That was what I was going to say. That's literally what I was going to say. I didn't know if Tony's seen them. I'll have to show him pictures because they're pretty amazing.
Yeah. I do need to see that.
I have. There's a couple of nights when I've been stoned and I'm like, Ian, you're a big nerd. Why are you doing this? And I'm like, oh, shut up. I have fun doing that.
I once watched Infinity War on acid, and it made me realize, like, oh, this is my life. I devoted my life to the big green guy punching the big purple guy, and it was actually a great. I laughed a lot at the idea, so I get it. Oh gosh! All right, pacing. So. Actually, there was some pacing. Tony was there. I just realized that my family listens to this podcast, but that's okay. Sometimes you got to drop some of your truths. All right, so we are here to talk about I Spy, episode 4, written by Jeffrey Bell, which is perfect to have Ian on because Jeffrey Bell eventually was the showrunner of Angel, wrote and directed the Angel series finale, my favorite series finale of all time. It was episode that was directed by Roxanne Dawson, who is an actor and a director. She helmed another episode in season 1 and then one more in season 2, both good ones. So I'm excited to get to her other episodes. The cast, our 6 main cast members are back, and this week we have Pascal Armand as Aquila Amador. I hate saying names. It's my least favorite part of this job. In I Spy, S.H.I.E.L.D. must track down a former agent who's being controlled by a mysterious threat. Will Coulson's history with his former protege compromise the mission? So that's my favorite thing these days is making these synopses. So Tony, since you have not seen, this was your first time watching this episode, Tony, what did you think of it?
So by the 4th episode, last episode was my favorite of 3. This is now my favorite episode of 4. I liked it a lot. Just really cool amount of intrigue. These episodes really been starting with a bang. This one started with a bang, but also like a really big question mark of just what the hell is going on. Instantly all in on Aquila Amador. What a badass. I obviously don't know what happens for the remainder of this show, but I hope she comes back because I really liked her a lot. I thought it was the whole wondering if this was ESP, and it turns out it's just this ocular implant, neuro-ocular implant or whatever they called it. Like I thought that was, I was on the edge of my seat of being like, what is it going to be? What is she? What is her power set? And so I really enjoyed the ride. Liked it a lot.
Cool. And Ian, what are your thoughts? And when was the last time you think you watched this episode?
Yeah, I could not remember what episode this was. And even when I read the synopses, I was like, wait, which one? Like in my head, I almost just said what they were. I had 2 other episodes from season 1 that I was thinking of. And then neither of them were this episode. Season 1 isn't one I revisit. I told you what my favorite storyline is. I can't even remember the season number that is. Is that 4?
Season 4. Yeah, season 4.
That's like, those are like, that's the era I revisit the most if I'm revisiting episodes. But that's not to say it's just like, that's my favorite. So that's what I have revisited. So it felt almost like fully new to me because I just did not remember this. I'm looking at my notes and I'm like, well, don't say that. Don't say that. That's a spoiler.
You need to do Jamie sends me Jamie sends me the rundown of every episode and there's like redacted like black bars.
Ian got the redacted too.
Oh, okay, cool. All right.
Yeah, I like to do it S.H.I.E.L.D. way because it's funny, but also because if you know every single thing I'm going to say, then we're like reading a script. But we'll have time in the end to talk spoilers. Do not worry. I have to say this is one of my least favorite episodes, but it's still like a good episode. And the reason why is I think part of me is like we're focusing so much on a new character when we're so early in the show, and we still have more of the core 6 to know about, I think. But we do learn a lot of Coulson, and I hate to rag on my boy Jeffrey Bell, but there's just some writing in this one that really makes me cringe. Like Coulson's like, I live outside the box. And at one point Sky says, she goes, it's either totally random or really important. Yeah, those are the options.
I do remember cringing at some dialogue.
Yeah. And it's,
sorry, no, go ahead.
No, the problem with this is the delay. I was the only thing I was going to say else about this one is that when this to me is one of your weakest ones, that is proof that when people say season 1 sucks, is that they're not really paying attention. Ian, what were you going to say?
I did notice. It's funny for like having watched the series. It's funny seeing. I forgot how some of the characters are depicted earlier on, and like they get different later on.
Sure, yeah.
Do they evolve?
That's fair to say. That's allowed.
Did you see my pause? I was like, can I say that?
I know. Poor Ian was like, I think Ian and Brett, last week's guests, I think especially, are people who really know the show, are like so worried they're going to spoil stuff.
Yeah.
And well, Ian, last week's guest, Brett, he spoiled the killer in Scream 4 for me. So he was the one I was like really worried about because it's coming onto this show. So you're going to be fine.
Okay.
And I brought up Jeffrey Bell, and I do want to. Do you guys, Ian? I'll ask you first. Do you see any like Angel threads here as somebody who came from writing Angel to writing this?
Yes, absolutely. I feel like, and I think Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. gets better at this as it goes along, of doing the like episode of the week, but still incorporating our characters and giving them a little bit development per episode. And this feels more earlier Angel when they weren't as good at doing it. I don't know. Do you agree, Jamie? That's how I feel about it. Like it's almost there, but it's like not quite there with like doing both of like plot of the week and character stuff.
Yeah, there is episode 9 of this show when we get there. I don't know if Jeffrey Bell wrote it. I didn't check because we're not there yet. But episode 9 is the most angel-y episode of the series. And I really look forward to having this discussion again. But this one, yeah, it does. There are angel elements, the way that somebody from his past. Like the episode where it kind of like the Renner episode that I did on your podcast.
Oh yeah.
God, I hadn't thought about that, but yes.
I know.
Yeah. What was your question, Jamie?
Do you feel it? The angel Jeffrey Bell of it.
Yeah, I see definitely parallels. I know what you mean, Ian, because it reminds me, it's kind of Monster of the Week, except it's not really monsters, but we are going to get like some unique guest star, and yeah, it does feel like, but like I feel like we're putting down cool building blocks because we've introduced Graviton and we've introduced Rising Tide and we've introduced Aquila, and I don't know how many of these elements are going to be coming back into the fold as the show goes, but I really like the foundation we're building, and I do like our characters are beginning to mesh together and develop relationships. It's definitely made by the same people as Angel. Like you can feel it.
Sure. And you know what? Not an insult.
Yeah.
Nope.
So, all right, diving into the episode, I Spy. We start in Sweden, and it's funny because Tony predicted this in episode 2. He was like, I want to see Coulson go to Sweden, but unfortunately, he did not meet up with a girl from Sweden that he had formerly seduced.
Yeah.
That was not in this episode. I would have liked to have seen it. They filmed some of it in Sweden, which I think is pretty cool. That and LA. But so we see the men in the sinister red masks. We think they're going to be the villains, but no, they're the victims of a very impressive assassin who chops off a dude's hand and steals some diamonds. Ian, did you remember like the red mask guys and that they were not bad?
I remembered I was like, oh wait, I remember the creepy red mask. And then I was like, but wait, are they bad or good? I could not remember. And so it still like threw me. Even when after she attacks them, I was like, no, but they're bad, right? Like, we're going to go back to like, she attacked them because they're bad. And then I was like, oh no, I was wrong. Because that feels very like horror movie. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A good mask. Tony, when you saw Sweden, did you think that Ingo was going to show up?
It popped into my head. Yeah. I was like, I did. And I actually forgot to even write it down, but I was like, didn't I say Sweden? I threw out Sweden and Japan for places where Coulson has a girlfriend. But no, I thought that intro was so cool, that square, and it's just like that first 5 minutes is really popping off with interesting stuff. And yeah, you establish something as imposing as like 12 dudes carrying briefcase robotically wearing spooky red masks, and you're like, who are these dudes? Like, oh, they're fucking nobody. This is an Aquila Amador episode. I mean, she's awesome, right? Like, do we agree that she's rad?
Oh yeah, when you're getting compared
please.
to Melinda May, it was like,
Ian just was like, I saw his face. Ian was like,
when we get to Tony leaves the room, I'm gonna open it up to the audience, and we're gonna ask them in the chat to decide something for me. There's a little tease for you. When you come in the chat, you can make decisions about the show when I can't decide them.
She's like, do we kick Ian off? Yes, great, bye.
Yeah. Exactly.
Should Ian come back? Yes or no? No, that's a definite yes. I already know what episode I want Ian back on. All right, so we get a little flare of the night pistol, which they call it, which I know it as the night gun. Like I know at some point they call it the night gun, but I was like,
that's what I thought too. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I was very much like, oh, that's more aggressive. Night gun is way better, and but it is something to put a pin in, Tony. The night gun pistol.
I'll put a pin in the Maria. Put a pin in the night gun.
Well, I just
Marking
mean
it
like
now.
we're allowed to tell you like remember this because it's not a spoiler. It's just a fun note. So Sky has been training. She's saying bang when she pulls the trigger, which I think is hilarious. It reminds me of my tattoo of Laura Dern, who says Q when she shoots the gun in The Last Jedi. You can see her saying it. She can't get the gun right. She's like been hanging out in the S.H.I.E.L.D. van because it reminds her of her van home. She calls Coulson Phil, which is so bold of her. And then she's trying out AC as a nickname.
Dumb.
Ian, how are you feeling about Sky at this point? Are you like some people took a long time to come around on Sky? Tony's not sure.
She was my favorite when I started. I will say she
from the beginning. Okay.
Yeah, she was my favorite. And like May becomes my absolute favorite. May was close second, but it was like Sky and May and Coulson were like my favorites. And then yes, they like Sky and May flip by the end. It's like May is my absolute favorite.
That's fair. Tony, how are you feeling about her progress?
She's all right. She's getting there. I don't know. Not my favorite, but I'm not like the only time she really irked me was in the first episode. And now I'm starting to appreciate her more. She's still a brat, but I'm starting to like be cool
Rude.
And like vibe with the brattiness of her,
Okay.
Wait, what? Can I ask you what bothered you about her? I don't remember the first episode that well because I said I don't revisit this first season. So
yeah. Just in the first, we talked about it, but she essentially corners J. August Richards while the dude's trying to have breakfast, and she starts being like, "I know who you are. Isn't this crazy? Here's what we're gonna do." And she's just really oblivious to his vulnerability and his discomfort and how precarious his situation is. And I was like, that would really got on my nerves. And then S.H.I.E.L.D. intercepts her and she's acting like she knows everything, is kind of above it, is super wishy-washy in her point of view. And I just I was like, I don't really like this girl. But as the episodes have gone on, she's just impressing me by being a way out of her depth and excelling under extraordinary circumstances, like despite everything. Her personality isn't like, I don't really jive with her personality, but I do respect how she handles business.
Okay.
Very diplomatic. I appreciate that. Yeah. So we're going to get into Aquila soon. But before we do, I do want to bring up the fact that Sky is guessing that she might have some kind of powers, telepathy or something. And everyone is so quick to dismiss it. But Sky's right. We've got aliens. We've got portals. Mm-hmm. There could be other things out there. But Fitzsimmons scientists, they're just not buying it. And Tony, what are your feelings about these guesses? I mean, she was wrong. But...
Right. Yeah, I had the same thought. They were like, there's no proof of VSP. And I had the same thought even before they said it, of like, alien, portal, attack on New York. Like, we're all bets are off, guys. So I hope that's, we haven't, I don't know how supernatural this show is going to get. I imagine a little, just based on the very two small things that I do know about the show. But I got to keep the book open, especially if you're in S.H.I.E.L.D. You can't be poo-pooing everything, but you got to get to the bottom of it. And this was not ESP; it was a neuroocular implant, which was still pretty badass.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is the thing that bothers me the most about season 1 is that like they're like, how could there? Don't be ridiculous, telepathy. And it's like, did you not see who the Avengers are? Like, telepathy really doesn't feel like that much of a stretch from like aliens invading and gods existing. Like, and like that's my main gripe with season 1 is like when they're like, how ridiculous. And it's like, but like they're superheroes with superpowers. Like,
yes, you've seen, that Hulk exists. Like, Tony, Catherine in the comments want to know what 2 small things you know. I know one is that Ghost Rider is going to show up eventually. What's the other one?
I think that's actually it. It might just be one small thing.
Okay.
I think the other one.
I was like,
no.
Wait, I love that.
I know Coulson's alive. I know Coulson's not dead. He didn't die by Loki's hand, and that Ghost Rider's in the show. And Ghost Rider is, magic in the realm, more in the realm of magic than he is in science fiction.
I can't believe that that's one of the things That's I was expecting a lot of other things. Okay.
Commercials. I remember commercials for this show and seeing him and being like, maybe I should watch this. I don't know.
That's my favorite season.
Yeah, it's mine too. There's a season 4 poster in our guest room with a giant Ghost Rider head on it. So like Tony would have to be really unobservant. Even if he knew before he knew me at this point, he'd have to know because this is giant.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna get into Aquila, but I really have to bring up the fact that when Coulson is listing social medias, he says Facebook, Instagram, and Flickr. Tony and I both
Flickr. Bring it back.
Flickr still exists. I looked it up. People are still using Flickr. Ian, I gotta know if you have the same kind of visceral reaction.
Yes, it's so you brought up Scream 4 at the top of this. It's almost like how the Blackberries date Scream 4 more than like anything else in the Scream series dates something. And like, sure, Facebook, sure, Instagram, but like Flickr, I was like immediately like, wow, somehow Flickr dates this more than anything else in this episode.
MySpace would have dated it even less than that.
Yes, I agree.
I think you're right. I know we have a lot of younger people who listen. Like somebody said that 7 years when we end, they're going to be 21 in 7 years. So I know. I want to know anybody in the chat if you don't know what Flickr is. I'm curious. If you don't know what Flickr is, no shame. You're just not as old as we are. The thing.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
It's okay, but you're not as old as us.
I made friends with this guy Ethan. Very sweet. He like listens. He's like very into horror, and he like listens to my podcast, my horror podcast, and some other people that I know. And we become friendly. We realized how much our age difference is. He's like 27, and I got my first. What was it like coming out at your age back then? And I was like, oh no, I feel so old.
Wow.
And it was genuine. He wasn't being like shitty. He genuinely like wanted to know, but I was like, oh, I guess I am that old that's a normal question to ask.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
There are moments. On my other podcast, we have a listener who will be like, I was 4 when Iron Man came out. I'm like, geez, okay.
Both fade away like Spider-Man at the end of freaking Infinity War.
Yep. But we don't want to be ageist. All ages are welcome here.
Oh yeah.
Yes, we love you all. It's just weird sometimes when mortality it comes knocking on your door.
When you feel that hand around your neck.
Not your problem.
Yes. All right. So Aquila Amador. She is a former protege of Coulson. She was presumed dead after her team infiltrated a gulag run by Van Shet, a name that also dropped in the pilot. Maria Hill said that he was selling Shatari tech in the first episode, so this is a name we've heard before. So Coulson says of Aquila that, she was great, she was smart. She gets compared to Melinda May, which is about as high as you can get after Natasha Romanoff. And but she said that she didn't value teamwork. She didn't play well with others. And during this conversation, he's like, Sky is kind of being compared to her. But really, I think this is more of a comparison of Ward. Ward's the one who doesn't play well with others. But Tony, I want to kick it to you first about just the introduction of Aquila. I know you're chomping at the bit to just talk about her in general.
I just think she's so cool. Like, I don't know. I thought that like they set her up to be really cool, 12 strange spooky dudes in one place, and the lights go out and they're all slain. I'm like, you're rad. And then unraveling what was going on with her, and Coulson yet again is just winning every episode because he's exhibiting compassion and he's following his instinct, and he's able to get everybody on his team without just sort of barking orders. I like that he was holding out hope for her. And this show has been really good at setting up a character and having you feel a certain way about them, letting you kind of fall into some preconceptions and then kind of pulling the rug out from under that, which I really like that game. I really like being like, oh, that's a bad guy. Oh, maybe not. I'm like, oh, no, save him. Oh, whoops, you ought not to have. That's a fun game. So and Aquila is just another example of that. And I just think I'm kind of bummed she doesn't have the cool eye implant anymore. But they had to save her life and stuff. I just thought that that was I guess I just thought that was a cool character and a cool power. I liked her.
Ian, Aquila, thoughts?
Tony, I feel like I'm like, God, what can I say? Like,
maybe you should have asked Ian first.
That's fair.
I was like, okay, she's a plot device.
Yeah.
You're 100%. You're right. Like, totally.
I think that's how I feel, especially upon rewatch. Is a similar kind of a thing, but she has really cool moments though. She has those like golf volley things, and then they dissolve into the diamonds.
Golf ball diamond holder.
Yeah. Eventually Shield hacks into her eyeball and they realize she's being controlled. I think it's actually another part of the writing that's really funny is that they take like a beat too long to figure out what's going on with her, and it's May who has to point it out, like she's the point of view. It's like, really, Fitzsimmons, you didn't figure that one out by just the camera movements?
Fitz literally goes, that looks like Aven. It is, you dumbass. Like, how did you not do the math on that?
Also, it is wild. It is wild that like when they are like talking about the eye thing, like, we don't have that technology. That's decades away. And I'm like, is it? Like, I feel like at this point, what is it? Only the first Avengers that has come out, or has Age of Ultron come out too? Okay.
No, not yet.
But like, I'm like, I don't know. I feel like in those MCU movies, like from the top, they're like every technology ever, and like the eye thing didn't feel that crazy for the MCU, right? It felt like I don't know.
It was important that Fitz and Simmons feel out of their depth, in order to, because they gotta go in there and perform eye surgery, and we the audience got to feel like they might not be able to pull it off. Which, by the way,
true.
Simmons is so fucking cute, trying to do an injection into the eyeball. I just think I really love those two, and Akila's just like, I'll do it, and just injected herself. I like that moment.
I do want to bring up Jeffrey Bell. What were you doing here? The pee jokes. when Fitzsimmons and Skye are like waiting and they need to go to the bathroom, and then Ward sifts through and then they pull out a water bottle, and then it's like, do you forget that we have girl parts and you have penises? It's like, really? What is, I don't mind a good dirty humor joke at all, but it was like we were kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel with this one.
Yeah, it was like, we need a comedy beat right here, crap one out.
And like the way she even delivers like penis, it's like, ugh.
Made me uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's not their best. But one scene I really do love is that Skye and Coulson have a really nice heart-to-heart when they're talking about Aquila, and Skye basically says, you believe in me and no one's believed in me in a long time, and because you believe in her, that makes me trust you. And I really, really like that scene.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So all the Coulson heart stuff is good.
Mm. I do want to bring up in this scene, it's in Coulson's office with Skye and Coulson, and they do a shot of his like collection, and I took a screenshot. Let's see if we can get it up on the screen of what is on his shelf, because I want you to guess. We've got this helmet, and then we've got these like Indiana Jones looking things, and I wanted to know, Ian, these are not things that we see again, I don't believe. Do you have any guesses, Ian, of what these are?
No.
No, yeah, it's okay. I don't either. I don't either. This is not a trick. I also don't know. I feel like the helmet looks like it's he loves old stuff, right? So that helmet could be something in like the Cap era. Those little guys though, that really looks like something out of Indy.
Yeah,
it does. Yeah, I'm trying to determine if that helmet is World War II or older. It looks like the helmets they would wear when they were testing flight speeds, like trying to break the sound barrier. So,
Ooh.
right around then, maybe a little later. Yeah, that seems like Coulson shit. Those relics, though, I don't know. I feel like one of them could like break open and glow or something, or that could just be because I've been watching a lot of horror movies this month. I don't know.
That's true. It is the spooky season. Well, if anyone, I know some people are just listening. So if you're listening, I'm sorry that you're not seeing this. It's go back and watch on the shelf. But if you are watching and you're looking at this and you have more knowledge than us, hit us up. Tell us in the chat. Hit us up on social media and let us know if you think you know what these things are. Thank you, Maria, for putting that on
You're welcome.
the screen. All right, we've got more to talk about in this episode. Before we do, though, I do want to take our 1 minute break so that everyone in the chat, they can, take your pee break so you don't got to go in a bottle. And we will be right back. So close.
One day.
Wait, I think I am gonna go pee.
And we are
And
back
we're
from
back.
our break.
Nailed it. That was so close. We were so close.
Ian just collapsed into his chair.
I was like, I'm gonna make it.
And you did.
Beautiful. Oh wow. Okay. Oh, I'm having so much fun, you guys.
Yeah.
Okay. So the next thing I want to talk about is something I really like. This is a meaty part of the episode, and it's Coulson and May butting heads. She's back in the combat. She wants to be back in the field, but she doesn't agree with everything Coulson's doing. And they obviously are the ones who've been around S.H.I.E.L.D. the longest. She has her opinions. There's a point where Skye says mom and dad are fighting, and I really felt that.
What's so funny is when she said that, I thought that it was about to be an awkward segue into her childhood again. I didn't totally get the reference. I just
no, Tony, she doesn't have a mom and dad. She doesn't know what that's like.
I know. You're right. But I was like, wow, that was ham-fisted. Oh, she's talking about May and Coulson. All right, good.
Ooh, and then May kind of goes off mission and to go find Aquila, and they have a fight, which is great because I love to watch Melinda May fight. It's one of my favorite things in this show. Ian, what did you think about Coulson and May, about her going off and the fight and all this?
I agree with you. Like, May gets all the best fight scenes. Like, that's a consistent thing throughout the show. They just get better as they go on. So I was like, yes, give me another May fight. Like, that's what I want. That's what I want, a May fight scene. And I really like May and Coulson's relationship. I'm very big on I'm like, say this in a non-spoiler way. I'm very big on a relationship with adults where, like, right now in the show, this is all I'm talking about right now in the show, where it's like, we are like, people want us to date, but like, we are just like, we respect each other as best friends, or like, maybe not best, maybe they probably wouldn't use that word, the two of them, but like, you know what I mean? They really like have love for each other and respect each other in a friend way, not in like I'm secretly in love with you way. And I love, that's like one of my co-hosts for Slayer vs. 98, Adam Sass, just wrote a horror book, and I keep yapping about it because it centers around two gay best friends, and like, everyone thinks they're dating, and that's like the big thing. Everyone like at their school keeps saying, oh, well, they're dating, but they're not. They're just best friends, and there's no like secret. It's just, nope, they're best friends, and I'm very much interested in those type of relationships.
That's what I liked about Bottoms, was that like they're the core friendship were like lesbians, but they're friends, and there's no.
And I was waiting. I was waiting for there to be a moment. I was like, oh, are they gonna? I don't want them, and then they didn't. I was glad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
So, Tony, this is a great part. Ian opened a floodgate that I was wanting to open this week or next week, which is that May and Coulson, there is nothing romantic there. It's very obvious there's something romantic there. But at this point in the show, people are shipping them. The fans are already wanting to see them together, and so I wasn't, because it's one of those things where people get shipped and that does not mean something's going to happen between them, but they even have a ship name. It's Felinda.
I hate that ship name.
If for anybody who's not watching, I just made a very intense grimace.
So I was curious to know what you think of their relationship, and are you surprised to learn that people are shipping them?
I guess I'm not surprised, but because people ship everybody for any reason, but it never occurred to me that those two would no. That's not. You're right, Ian. It's a relationship between two adults. They are heterosexual, man and woman, presumably at this point, and they are friends. It's platonic, and that's how it's always felt the whole time.
Yeah, those shippers went hard, Jamie, right? Like, I feel like if I recall, yeah.
Oh yeah. I would say the most intense people in the fandom are the Felinda shippers. No shade, no shade. I love, me. I love all ships. There are no Shield ships that I can think of that I'm like, oh, gross, I hate it. In this point in the show, we already have, I don't think I've told you about Skimmins, which is Skye and Simmons have a big ship too. And I think that even at this point, people want that because, but also they're the only two young women. So it's like, who are you going to squeeze together if you want to see girls kiss? That's kind of the option.
No, that's hot, but also I'm not getting that impression at all.
Yeah, it's early on. You got to just find it and go for it. I love it. Before we move on from May, I do want to say these shots of her towering over everyone while she's in the top deck of the bus. She looks like a drug lord. She's just and I don't know.
I used to use that GIF all the time. A GIF of the one where she's just takes a deep breath.
She's very intense.
All right, so they pick up Aquila. They get to her. Coulson and her have this really good heart-to-heart, just like with Skye. These scenes kind of mirror each other. And Aquila says, "Where's the I told you so?" And Coulson says, "That's not me anymore. I'm just glad you're alive." And this is interesting because Coulson obviously is different from pre-Avengers. We know something's going on. We don't know what it is, but she's kind of alluding, making it seem like he was kind of a hard ass at one point. And I just have trouble believing that because before before he dies, maybe we're seeing him geeking out over Cap, and it's hard to imagine him in a bossy, hardened situation.
I can totally see it though, because I can imagine we watched the Jamie, you and I watched the David Mamet movie Spartan, where he has a supporting role, and he's very much he's presumably an FBI guy or something, or Secret Service, but he's very much he always plays doesn't always play, but frequently plays a similarly authoritative figure. And in the movie Spartan, he's vicious, he's scary, mean, and intense and serious. And there's a difference between who that guy is outside the door. And who he is at work. And so I could see Coulson earlier in his career being harder around the edges. I guess in Captain Marvel, we don't really, he's more or less the same. He doesn't have as much bubbliness and humor, but I can see it. I can see Coulson being mean for sure.
Ian?
Yes, I don't know that I could see because of what we saw in Avengers and Captain Marvel, but yes.
Okay, I love. Asked and answered. Love it. Also, I think it's so funny that she's drinking this Shield water bottle. We see a lot of Shield water bottles. Shield, why do you need your logo on your water bottles? It goes back to the Captain Marvel joke, where why is your logo on everything? And I think it's really funny that they put their logo on their water bottles.
That is really funny.
Oh wow, real good secret organization with the branding on everything.
Exactly. So we get to Aquila was originally got this key, and now Ward is taking her spot. They made these glasses, so it looks like he's her, but he has to be careful. He can't look in the mirror because he has man hands. And so we get through this whole thing, and I think it's funny that at one point like, oh, Ward's ticklish because Sky went to like the back of his neck, and it's like, it's not that he's ticklish, it's that he has childhood trauma from being beat up by his brother.
Yeah, that did not look like a fucking tickle. That looked like a don't goddamn touch me. Like,
yeah, that was a trauma reaction, 100%.
Yeah.
And then we get to the point where he has to seduce the guard, and I'm relieved that it didn't turn into like he actually had to do that, because that would have been so cringe. And it was fun that he had to bromance him, but I still felt like that whole thing could have been funnier. This scene,
in order for it to justify it, like, you know, he gets the command like seduce, and he's like, all right, that's not going to work. I think we just, you know, you guys pitch for the same team or whatever. And so he's like, all right, I'm going to try bromance. And like, what needed to happen was it needed to start to work. He had to fuck it up. Like, that's how that scene should have been written. Like, he just walks in there and it doesn't work from the jump. So he punches him, which is what he was already planning to do. I don't know. It was just like missing a beat, that scene.
Well, and I think I think is it Sky it's Sky that's talking to him when she's like, talk about, you know, vodka. And I'm like, that was funnier, her like setup for it, than it was like what he did.
Yeah.
So I agree. Yeah. It could have been like, he like leans so hard into being bro-y that it's like a cartoon character, and like, we learn that words about it. Like, that would be funny. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just think it's this whole episode, I just really feel the writing's off kilter. But again, I've seen it like 15 times. So when you get a little critical. And okay, so we talked about the surgery scene already a little bit. Tony brought it up. I really love that Akila shoves that needle into her eye. But my favorite is that Fitz is cringing and he can't really look. But then when it's time to step in, he steps in. He still does.
I noticed that.
When she's got the eye in the fucking tool. Sorry, curse. So when she's got the eye in the. Okay. Once you said there was like 14-year-olds, I'm like, oh god, I shouldn't curse. I love the like scene of her like looking at him, and she's just, it's like, I don't know what there's like in like clippers or something. It's just the eyeball taken out of the socket. She's like, come on, let's go.
Yep.
Yeah, it's good stuff. And then
I'm always so proud of them.
Reveal, right? I feel that way too.
Yeah.
I just want to hug him.
Yeah.
But so we get the reveal that the Englishman, who is played by Dominic Burgess, who is in like so many shows, this actor pops up in everywhere.
And he was on Slayer Fest 98. I had him on for a Buffy. He's a big Buffy fan. I had him on for a Buffy episode.
Oh, cool.
Oh, I love that. Which episode did he cover? Do you remember?
It was season 7, but I don't remember which one.
Okay. All right. You guys have to look for that because that's really awesome. So I meant the audience, like they can figure it out. So the reveal is that her handler is also being handled. So this goes deeper, and I think that's really cool. And then he comes up to Coulson, confronts him, and boom, murdered. That eye thing gets me. That is gruesome. That's like, I think to me, kind of like peak gruesome on this show. Tony, were you surprised?
So what's that actor's name, Ian?
Dominic Burgess.
Dominic Burgess. So I saw him and I was instantly like, hey, because he's on Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I don't know if it's more than one episode. He plays a character named Crazy Mike or Crazy something, where like, they're like, oh, this guy's getting out of jail. Like, this guy was nuts. Like, I can't wait to hang out with him and come back to the bar. And then he goes to the bar and he's just like the chillest dude who's trying to live a normal life. And they're all like mad at him for not being like a maniac any longer. So I was excited to see, because that's the thing I know him most from. You see him everywhere, but I was like, hey, and then pop, he was out. So that was surprising, the instantaneousness of that death. And yeah, it's pretty gross to imagine what's going on inside that dude's skull when that eyeball bomb pops off. But an effective use of an actor, just to see him be like, hey, cool, I'm excited for this to develop, out the door. Good stuff.
I want to backtrack a little because I meant to bring this up, and I'm not going to ask Ian this question. I'm only going to ask Tony that Ward infiltrated that building, all the millions of dollars, diamonds, to take a picture of a chalkboard. What do you think that chalkboard was?
This is the thing this is why I like this episode so much. It's the intrigue, the deepening of the world that I'm really digging. I was like, that's alien writing, and then they made that comment there. I love that alien chalkboard. I like alien chalkboard. I like neuroocular implant. I like Alka-Seltzer golf ball diamonds. and I like Aquila Amador. I just like the stuff that's popping off in here. I'm as you're talking about it, Jamie, I am like realizing, it's a pretty clunky episode, but I love that chalkboard.
Hey, you know what you like? That's great.
Yeah, Ian.
Tony defending Shield episodes to me is not where I thought this podcast would be going. So
Me neither.
And we have this end credit scene where Fitz and Ward are playing poker, but Ward's in his ear and they're cheating, which is really cute to me until Skye uses it to look at Ward naked. I think that's really.
Didn't she use it to look at Simmons naked or Fitz naked?
No, she tells him, if I do this, I'm going to see you naked. And he's like, never mind. And he runs away. But Skye still does it because
I thought it was like,
there.
I thought it was like Ward turns to him or something.
And I believe that I believe it's implied that Fitz walks away and she still does it so she can look at Ward's body.
All I know is that from her acting, I could tell that she saw a penis. I don't know whose penis it was.
Mm-hmm.
That's I saw a penis face.
Yeah. You can see it a mile away.
And real quick, before we go into the history, I do want to bring up when Aquila leaves in the episode, she ask May, what happened to Coulson? He's different. And May was like, oh, Battle of New York. And then Aquila goes, what did they do to him? And May was like, what? Huh? And then never mind and walked away. So, we've talked this to death. Tony has his theories. Tony doesn't know what's going on. But I think that's a pretty cool moment.
I said it, intrigue. This episode's got it. I like that we're continuing to deepen the death intrigue. We're not going to let that thread go. Somebody's going to bring it up. Has to do, and I mean, I don't know if it's just that she knows Coulson so well that she knows something is off, or that her neuroocular implant with its X-ray abilities gave her a clue that we can't see. I don't know, but I'm excited to find out about what happened to Coulson. He is confirmed not the same. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. The intrigue. I want to give the chat has been so chatty and talking, and I haven't really been acknowledging all of you, but I want to say, like, awesome. I love it. And I really like this comment from Felipe, who says that when the guy dies, the handler dies, it's been so long since I watched this episode, his death really surprised me. And I don't even remember who's behind this. So I love that some people have not watched season 1 in so long that it's like a mystery, even for people who have seen it already. And that really excites me. Like, yes, Ian, okay, yes. So you do not know who's behind any of this.
When Dominic Burgess showed up, I was like, oh, I've had him on my podcast. I don't remember him being a main character in this season. And then he died, and I was like, oh, I guess he's not. Wait, then who's doing this? Like, I could not remember.
Fun. I honestly love that. So a couple quick history stuff, because I want to get to Tony leaves the room. I'm itching to talk without Tony. But
she loves
like
when I leave.
Ian. I know. Like Ian Quinn, Aquila got her own theme music this week from Bear McCreary. Something I didn't notice because I never notice music. Ian, did you notice this? Did you notice like a music change at all? Yeah, I've said it before. I do not have a good ear, but now that I'm reading about the music, I'm gonna like really try. And that actor, Pascal Armand, she was a theater actor and she auditioned. This was like kind of her first big role in something. And it's funny because in the wiki it says that she trained by watching the Avengers and going to the gym, but she got the script like the day before filming. So okay, real good stuff.
Most people do that. Most people just do that in life.
Yeah. They filmed this from August 20th to August 29th. 9 days. Ian, when you talk about Buffy, do you look into like how long it took them to film each episode? Because it blows my mind every time how short network TV takes.
I was gonna say, I feel like, yeah, with Buffy, I don't look, to be fair, I do not look into that, but I do know they like any of the actors have come on to be like, oh yeah, sometimes you'd have to film like literally from the start of the day till the next day. Like the sun went down and came up because they needed the nighttime setting for graveyards and all that. And like, the turnover is like bananas. It's just like, wow, they had to like produce a mini movie in that short of time.
Yeah. Crazy.
Heroes. Love it. All right. So a lot of the other history we kind of covered earlier. So before we kick Tony out, Tony, you said that this is your favorite episode so far. Do you have any new opinions? Anything change for you after seeing this?
No, we're nothing's changed. I don't think I have anything further to add. Yeah, I dug this one, and that's all I have to say.
Great, I love it. Do you wanna say your goodbyes?
Yeah, I will. And I'm going to say goodbye and I'm going to leave the room. But I have to thank some people. So thank you, Stephanie at Eclectic Muses on socials for doing our artwork. Thank you, Ryan Miera. You can find him at Yellow Pills Music. He did our awesome theme music. Thank you, producer Maria. Producer Maria, thank you.
You're welcome.
DJ of the
And
century.
before we kick Tony out, because some of our audience leaves with Tony, so I want to make sure they know that our fourth guest next week is Jenna Anderson, host of the Phase Zero podcast. I hear her co-hosts are really hot over there on that podcast. And you can follow us on social media at LidoPod on Instagram and Twitter. From there, check out our link tree where you can find out everywhere else to go. Like and subscribe to our channel. Please leave us those 5-star reviews. And if you leave a question with your 5-star review, we will answer it on the podcast. Ian, so that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. newcomers know, where can they find you on social media?
You can find me on all social media platforms at Ian X Carlos. My first name, my middle name with an X in the middle because I was that scenester back in the day. And my podcast, Slayerfest 98, is at Slayerfest X98 on all social media platforms, where we cover Buffy and Marvel stuff. And you can find our Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. roundtable episode, which I can't believe I didn't bring up until right now, because I had Ming Na Wen on, and she is my favorite person I've ever interviewed, ever.
I believe that. She's so amazing. She's so wonderful.
So cool. And you can find my horror podcast at My Bloody Judy.
Amazing. I'm going to find this roundtable and
yeah,
we're going to share. We'll have to share the roundtable on our socials. Yeah, I just want to say Slayerfest 98 is one of my favorite, just for social media, like not just a podcast. That's how I discovered you guys. I just loved you on social media, and so I've been modeling a lot of our social choices after the way Ian does social for Slayerfest.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
We love you guys over there. All right, Tony. Thank you for being here. See you in the
Tony, it was so nice to meet you.
Ian, it was a pleasure to meet you. Thank you for being here. And thank you for all the watchers and listeners. I'll see you guys next week.
Bye. Remember to turn your things off. Last time he accidentally didn't turn the computer off and he was like running around with his ears plugged in.
I didn't realize like Tony leaves and like he leaves.
Oh yeah.
Because for a minute.
No, because we want to make sure that it's just easier for people who are also listening for the first time. They don't have to fast forward things. Like if you haven't watched ahead of episode 4, time to go. So I really have to bring up the fact that Tony is listing all these seeds they're planting that do not come to fruition. First of all, we never see. I know we like Gravitron. Yes, we will get in season 5, but it's not the same actor from last week. It's a totally different person. And then he brings up okay, this is what I want to know, your opinion and people in the chat. Should I just tell Tony that Akila doesn't come back? Sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. Like I'm not going to tell him the Graviton guy doesn't come back because he technically is referenced later, but I think I should tell him Akila doesn't come back.
I think it, like with that stuff, I always think a spoiler is okay if it's like to lower expectations, because like if he's waiting to see her, like he might be like bummed.
I think you're right. Oxborn in the comments agrees that I should tell him. I also like this. When Amy Acker shows up, he's gonna be so excited, and I'm gonna tell him it's only one, because that fucked me up. Because I kept waiting for her to come back for years.
They made such a big deal of her, and I really was like, oh well, clearly she has to come back. Like, but nope.
All right, the chat agrees. Next week, I'm not going to tell him behind the scenes, though. We'll tell him next week on the podcast so you guys can see. The thing is, I don't want to tell him every time, because then when I don't tell him, he's going to figure out who is coming back, if that makes sense. But I think in this case, I should just tell him.
I feel like, yeah, because he was like pretty stoked about her and was like, yeah, I really liked her. Like, that's like a good time to be like, well, you're not going to see her again.
All right. Thank you, Ian. And thank you. We got lots of people in the comments agreeing. So great. We're going to tell them next week. So we talked about how the Van Chat character was brought up twice now. And I actually forgot about this character. He does show up in a magical place, which is a later season 1 episode. I do not remember him. And I've seen this show so many times. Did that name ring any bells for you?
Nope. Is the chalkboard, is it it's not Inhumans, is it?
It is we in season 2, it's Coulson starts writing like the same kind of thing. And then we find out that's the map to the city for the Inhumans. Yes. So that
Okay,
is
it is.
like
Okay.
where that chalkboard will come into play next season. The writing on the wall is that whole thing. But I forgot that they showed that so early. I totally forgot.
I was thinking, well, it can't possibly be Inhumans. This is way too early, but nope.
Planting those
What
seeds.
season?
So
Is it the
it's
end of
season
season 2? Okay, okay.
It's kind of early season 2. The mid mark is basically Sky getting her powers. That's I've said this every episode, but the hardest thing about this show is calling her Sky. That's
Because then you go from Sky to Daisy to Quake, and it's like, oh Jesus, like
Mhm. Yeah. Oh boy.
I
So,
forget.
it's also
I don't remember like what this. I don't remember I don't remember all the transitions. I don't remember. Like I'm like I know she only goes by. It's only season 1 that she goes by Sky, right? Isn't it by season 2 she's
no.
Daisy?
She learns her name in season 2. She doesn't officially start going by it until the start of season 3.
Okay, okay,
So she does learn her name like mid season 2.
okay.
So we've got a ways to go. Oh, at one point in this episode, Ward says to Coulson, "Betrayed by someone you believed in," like kind of talking down Aquila, and I was like, "Oh, you son of a bitch! How dare you say that to this man?"
Every time we saw Ward, I was like, oh, this dickhead. Ugh. Like me when I watch this with my roommate when like we lived together in Brooklyn. We would watch it weekly, and he hated Ward. Like he was mad that Ward came back in the framework because he was like, no, I hate him. I don't want him back. I want him gone forever.
Agree. Also, if future Daisy, knew that she called Coulson Phil, I think she would die of embarrassment.
Yes.
I would like that whole thing. I think is just because she respects him so much down the line, and she does now. But just like, oh, I can't believe she called him Phil.
She feels like a completely different character, right?
It's wild, yeah. I was somebody who also didn't love her in the beginning, but she really grew on me, but not until season like 5 and 6 did I really start
Mm.
to love her. But season 2, she's great in that season. I love her in season 2. It's just I'm not a season 3 fan. I really don't like the Hive stuff, and that like knocks her down a peg, and I don't like Lincoln either.
Lincoln is such like a nothing character, like right? Like
Yes, he's the
he's just hot.
Riley of Agents of Shield.
Yeah,
I think I prefer Riley. I would say
yeah,
I'm not a Riley hater by any means, but I think they're comparable.
yes, absolutely.
Let's when in the beginning when the hand got chopped off, I was like, I feel like at this point they didn't know they were going to chop off Coulson's hand, but it's all I could think about.
Yes. I kept thinking of Lindsay on Angel because we just recorded for like the episode where he gets his hand back.
Yes. Nothing is funnier to me in speaking of that when he opens the closet and you see the guitar and they decide to make him a musician after his hand was lost. Hilarious. Everybody knows who listens to this podcast 4 episodes deep, our hardcore fan base of 4 episodes, that like I'm gonna bring up Buffy and Angel whenever I can. So that's one of the reasons I was so excited to have you on so early. That's kind of it for future stuff. Was there anything else that you thought or noted?
I did notice that like I forgot just how quiet they made May in that like in this first season, especially at the beginning. Because I felt like her and Sky, Daisy, Quake all like both like have way bigger evolution. Like I don't know, they just like it's funny seeing where they start at the show and where they end because she also wouldn't be so dismissive of Coulson the way she is in this. Like when he's in the cockpit and she's like, I like being alone. And like wants him to leave,
that was
that
was a little salty for
yeah.
her.
Yeah, right. And all I kept thinking of was the shippers, how intense they were and how like I remember being worried they were gonna have like them get married at the end or something, and I didn't want that because I liked their relationship.
I really love their kiss is one of my favorite moments. I love it, but I do like the way things played out because the real Coulson did die, and but it's a tumultuous topic. I said that word kind of funky. I choked on that, but you know what I mean. But I know that you are no stranger to intense shippers, so And I want to say thank you so much for coming on. And because this episode isn't one of my favorites, I was like, Ian knows this plight of sometimes the episodes aren't the best episodes, but they're fun to talk about anyway. And again, thank you for coming on during what is such a busy week. Is there anything else you want to say to our audience before we say goodbye?
No, we're good.
Okay. Yeah, we kind of covered it all, right? I think. So thank you everybody for listening. Thank you for everybody in the chat. Thank you to Ian for being here. Tune in next week, Sunday, October 22nd, for episode 5 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Girl in the Flower Dress. We'll be live on YouTube and Twitch once again at 5 p.m. Pacific time. If you can't make the live stream, the episode will be up shortly on all major podcast platforms. Bye.